7:44 in Trinidad and Tobago, coming up to 7:45. Well, our next guest has been touring the building of CCN. He's finally made it here with us. But we're here to talk about something very serious with psychologist Daryl Joseph. Daryl, very good morning to you. I know you're an All-Stars fan. I don't know if it's about that one point that you're a little disoriented.
Yeah, it still has me quite confused, and I don't know when I'll get over it. I'll have to do some therapy on myself, some continued, maybe long-term therapy.
I wonder how that works. You hold up a mirror and say, "Daryl, boy, get over it," kind of thing. But
I will leave it to your imagination.
Thank you. But in all seriousness, Daryl, we thought it appropriate to get a perspective on, almost every Monday morning or after a long holiday, after the Easter vacation, people expect to pick up their papers and read the sort of tragedies that they read yesterday.
Yes.
Are we becoming desensitized?
To some extent, yes, in the sense that, okay, yeah, we do expect to see it, but I still believe that it is human nature to be jarred and to be upset and to be, horrified by these things happening. So in that sense, I would say no. What I would say is, rather than being desensitized, I think we've come to expect these things to happen now, and that's very dangerous as well, because that's the beginning of tolerance, and there are some things that we should never be tolerant of.
And again, we are pressed for time because of all the issues about you touring the building.
Nice
and so
building, though, nice building.
Thanks very much. I'm sure the bosses will be happy to hear that. But, I mean, what would you recommend as a coping mechanism with this? Do people just switch off? Do they say, look, I'm tired of all of this blood on the papers or on the news? How do you cope with this sort of situation?
Okay, now, listen, we talk a lot about why this is happening and, we're trying to deal with it and so on, but my stance on it is very hardline. I don't want to have to deal with it. We're not taking mental and emotional health seriously in this country. There's talk about it, but in a practical sense, in terms of making services available, publicizing it, making sure people are sensitized to the idea that, you don't have to suffer in silence, we're not taking that seriously. And as a nation, we need to.
And that's at a more serious level, the actual victims, those involved in these sort of relationships that would have gone sour and lead to tragedies and so on. But maybe it's a more superficial level. Some will say that the media contributes to this feeling of, all doom and gloom. You pick up your papers, there's blood and murder. You listen to the news, there's some killing and some chopping and so on. Do you see that as having an impact as well?
I think it does have an impact, but you have to understand what the media is. And the media is a business, and it sells. And if I continue to buy, then I will continue to sell. If people start rejecting the images and rejecting the stories, and there's a drop in sales, for example, clearly there will be a signal that you need to change your game plan. But as long as it's working, it's a business. I mean, that's what businesses do. They're in it for profit.
And let's talk about very quickly about the providing services for because there's a lot of anger out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unresolved issues out there that are manifesting themselves in very, very violent ways.
That's right.
I mean, what do we do?
That's right. Okay, there's a lot of hype and a lot of mystery about what exactly happens, what therapists do, people who work in mental and emotional health, what they do. What you see on television, what you see in movies is nothing like what it really, really is. And they are very practical, very grounded, very scientifically validated methods of dealing with trauma, of dealing with anger, of helping people learn new skills, how to cope, how to resolve things without fighting, how to debate and discuss things and so forth. But, only people who are either knowledgeable about it or who feel that they have the financial resources to access it will actually do so. The average person will say, no, I can't afford that, and they don't even have an idea how much it really costs.
But again, just on that point, shouldn't services, because it's the same way we talk about, medical services, surgery and so on.
Yes.
Shouldn't we be dealing with our mental health issues seriously?
Yes, obviously, clearly, very clear. I am a very firm believer. You're supposed to have access to mental and emotional health services within the healthcare system, just like a medical doctor, a pediatrician, an optometrist, any other kind of service.
Is there a stigma still attached to that you're going to see a psychologist, you're mad, but next thing you will be in, they will put you in St. Anne's?
Yes.
I mean, haven't we gotten over that? And
No.
to realize that, no, Daryl, I mean, haven't we realized that is not about just calling people mad, that people have unresolved issues that they need to talk to a professional about?
Based on my experience in the field, I would say no. Because you're still getting, you see, education has a lot to do with it, all right? And the better educated people are, the more likely they will be to perceive it as something real and something tangible to be dealt with. The lower your education level, the more likely you are to just get caught up in the stereotypes and the hype. And, unfortunately, things you see in movies and on television, sitcoms, they don't really help because they're always very comedic. They always have the therapist doing very bizarre, strange things, and it doesn't help.
I'm told that we have a few more minutes, which I appreciate, and because I want to squeeze out as much information as I can from this segment. Not how All Stars could get a point. That gone already. You have to wait till 2015. But I mean, as someone involved in the profession, do you feel that you're making a difference? I mean, not that I'm giving you a plug for your business, but I mean, the thing is that. Yeah. The same way that people need to have cancer surgery or whatever else it is.
Yes.
Do even the so-called educated?
Yes.
Do they also feel comfortable in saying, I need to talk to a professional to help me resolve some personal issues and so on?
Again, based on experience, I have to say so. Yes. And one of the greatest rewards that you can get when you're working with people is for people to come back afterwards and tell you, "Thanks, you helped save my marriage. I was going down a cliff and, you helped me and I'm able to get out of it now and my life is back on track." That kind of feedback is priceless.
Of course it is. You could do a MasterCard commercial with that, with the priceless. But the whole issue, I mean, as you said, ordinary folk in Trinidad and Tobago, those are the lower income levels, or those are the lower educational levels, may not see the value in this sort of thing. And there would be a lot of issues that would be settled in a rum shop on a Saturday night or on a Friday, in a home, when things go wrong. Sadly, in Valencia and Matura, we saw what happened over the week. I mean, what is your reaction when you read stories like that?
Honestly, Fazir, when I saw this story, the first thing I thought was, I wonder if I had sat down with this guy for a couple of hours, if it would have made a difference. Honest to God, that was the very first thing that went through my mind. Because I'm pretty sure he would not have been speaking to anybody about what was going on with him, all right? You see, we all have a limit, right? We can all stretch only so much, like a rubber band, and then when you stretch beyond that point, you snap. And when a person snaps, the things they are capable of doing, there's hardly any indicator as to how far I could go. I mean, you listen to the mother, what she said. He never threatened the children. He was always very kind with them. But obviously, this guy snapped.
But understanding that, isn't it? Because, I mean, it doesn't take much for some people to snap. It has people who have very high levels of tolerance.
There are some people who are stretched like this all the time.
Okay, well, where we are at society, are a lot of people facing
stretched.
That sort of stuff?
Very, very stretched, right? A number of factors. I don't have time to go into all of it now. Right? Some of them to do with Maslow hierarchy of needs, economic ladder, being able to provide for yourself and your loved ones and so forth. But on the whole, I would say that the nation is too tense and too stressed. You drive on the road and within 5 minutes you have to avoid about 3 accidents, people cussing, people carrying on, nobody giving way, nobody being considerate and kind. And some of it we have bred as well, by not looking out for our fellow man, by not being kind, by not upholding certain values that would have been cherished in generations gone by. But overall, the nation as a whole is stretched, we're too tense, we're too angry.
How many people would you say are willing to actually stop and say, if you were to just go out on the promenade and just say, you want to take 5 minutes and talk because you look like you're a little trouble. What they would tell you? Mind your business?
That would be mild. All right? You probably would get cussed. People would probably just watch you on stoops. A number of different reactions like that. But, I mean, it's not a natural thing for people to just open up to anybody just so. You have to admit that, all right? But still, more needs to be done to raise awareness about it, to encourage people, don't just sit down and grumble and deal with this thing, There are people, that's the other thing that happens, right? Sometimes people just don't know where to go. Yeah. Right? I get that sometimes. People come to me and they say, how long I want to talk to somebody. So, well, why you didn't open the phone book or whatever? Well, I didn't know what to look for.
And finally, just on that point, is this also reflective of the breakdown of family structures? Oh, yeah. Because at another time, you might have been able to have that relationship with your parents, your wife, your brother and sister, that you could at least talk about the issues. Right. Have things changed so drastically?
Oh, gosh, yes. Oh, gosh, yes. Family life is in a terrible, terrible, terrible way. Functional families are now more like dysfunctional families because there's so many dysfunctional families.
There are more exceptions. There are more
dysfunctional families are the norm. So when you find a family that actually working together, it's a bit strange. That's the normal thing now.
Daryl, thanks very much. I'm glad you were able to actually find the proper way to get to the top floor eventually. But hopefully we'll have another opportunity to broaden this discussion because I think it's something that we treat casually because it's not something that you see every day. And we don't realize that people are walking, just as you said, I wonder if you could have put a little symbol above everybody's head as to how far they're stretched out. How much...
make a nice graphic, huh?
We'll probably make a very interesting one. Thanks again. Thanks a lot. Sorry for All Stars again, but as I say, maybe next year. 1 point?
Ban of the year, don't forget.
What was is
Mass.
You're not. We're playing the thing.
God is good. God is good.
Right. Well, Daryl Joseph will get over it sometime. Hopefully before 2015 Panorama. But hopefully it won't take us long to get to the studio the next time around as well. He had a nice tour of the building, so I suppose the managers will be speaking to him afterwards about his own views about the building right here at CCN. We have the news coming up, and then I'll be back to wrap up the program.